Good morning, Texas. Welcome to the LGBTQ plus Workplace Alliance Summit. We appreciate you all being here this morning with us. Looking forward to having a great day and wonderful speakers that we've got coming in today. This morning, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Texas Chambers, how we came together. We've been we've been together actually for, I guess, I'm going to say about 4 years now, and just come together in collaboration with many events. Before I get going into that, though, I'd like to introduce our chamber leaders. We've got Tina Cannon from the Austin LGBT Chamber of Commerce. She is the CEO and president. We've got Tammy, Wallace, co-founder and president and CEO of the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. And we've got Tony Vetta, which is the president and CEO of the North Texas LGBT Chamber of Commerce. And again, and myself, of course, Melissa Ochoa, the president of the San Antonio LGBT Chamber of Commerce. So just wanted to talk a little bit about, as I said, we started off probably about 4 years ago, and we all just decided to come together in collaboration, because when you come together, it's one big voice when we talk about Texas LGBTQ Chambers of Commerce, as opposed to just one entity by itself. So instead of being individuals, we decided, hey, why not come together? Why not bring one big voice to the Capitol when it's necessary? And then not only that, but bringing all the chambers together and having a great event like, for example, today, right? We've got the Workplace Alliance Summit. How much, we were able to talk to each other, meet each other throughout the great state of Texas. Not only that, but we also have Pride Across Texas. We also have the LGBT Roundtable. And again, just in networking with other individuals across the state of Texas, which we would not be able to do if we did it alone. So today, perfect example again, we're giving a voice and connection to the LGBTQ plus and allied business community across the state of Texas. Again, we got some great speakers, so stick around. Hopefully we see you all day long today. And I was going to introduce Tony Vetta this morning, but Tony is not able to be with us this morning. He'll join us later on. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Howe.
Hey, thanks, Melissa. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Howe. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Vice President of Membership and Programs at the North Texas LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Tony is not with us right now, but he will be here later today. So welcome. I am so proud of the program that we've put together for the summit. And I definitely want to thank all of our colleagues with the Texas LGBTQ Chambers of Commerce, especially Tammy Wallace in Houston, really helping us get this off the ground, and our new executive team that we're working with. Thank goodness, because this is something that I don't think we could do alone in North Texas, and we need the help of each other to put together a quality program like that we have today and that we plan to do year round. And I'm so excited to launch the LGBTQ plus Workplace Alliance with this summit and continue providing this kind of programming for our corporate partners year round. And, I was telling some people last week, this was one of the first times in 2 years where I felt like I could go to our corporate partners and say, we have something for you. We want to give you this. We want to provide you this. Usually it's just me saying, we need. Can you give us this? Can you give us that? And except for EY, I did have to go to EY and say, we need. So I want to thank EY for taking over this afternoon with their program later. And I look forward to that. Sorry, I got to check my notes real quick. So glad everyone's here. We have great programming today. Stick around for networking. You can network between sessions. You can network at the end. Meeting each other is part of what makes this a good experience. So I'm going to turn this over to Houston, to someone who probably is not happy with me because I said, Tammy, let's get this summit going and launch this thing in March. And then I went on vacation. So Tammy Wallace, founder, president, CEO of the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Take it away.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. And everyone, we are so glad to have you here. Today is literally, we are breaking new ground with the LGBTQ plus Workplace Alliance, not only the programming, but holding the summit across the state of Texas. And we couldn't be more thrilled to have you all with us, helping us launch this program and hearing from some amazing panelists and speakers today. This is when we think about the why, really the about why we're rolling out this LGBTQ plus Workplace Alliance program. Well, you can see on screen. I'm not going to read this in detail, but we have developed this program exclusively for our corporate partners to help create connection across our corporate partners. Not only regionally, we wanted to do this in Houston, but we said, as part of our collaboration with the Texas LGBTQ chambers, let's do this across the state and create connection among our ERG groups, our HR professionals, our DEI professionals, get you all connected, because the chambers and the Texas LGBTQ chambers of commerce, the 4 market chambers, we're in a unique position at this intersection of business and community. So we can bring together corporate partners for learning opportunities, et cetera. And so we're so excited today to not only launch this program, but to mention that there's very few LGBTQ chambers in the country that have this type of programming. And we hope that we're creating a model in Texas in terms of collaboration across chambers that our colleagues across the country can follow when it comes to this type of programming. So talking about the programming and what we're doing, it really does have the pillars that you see that we've got on screen here: connecting, sharing, engaging, learning, and community. Creating a connection, a strong connection that not only benefits the ERG leaders, all the individuals in our corporate partners across the state, but what this does is creates connection for our community, connection that we can tap into to say, let's help support community in this way. And we get to do this together in not only in a collaborative way, but in an intentional and a meaningful way, bringing you learning opportunities. You are going to hear again from some remarkable panelists and speakers today. And we're so excited, particularly with our keynote speaker, Rhodes Perry, to hear from his lens about belonging in the workplace and getting you all engaged under this umbrella of the LGBTQ chambers. Our work in this state focuses on economic inclusion for the LGBTQ plus community. Our corporate partners play a pivotal role in that. So if we can work to get you connected, that is very much a win for the chambers, for our community, and for our corporate partners. This programming is going to include regional and statewide programming, including what we're doing today, this annual summit, but you can see on screen. Regional, you can translate that to a lot of in-person activities with your regional market chamber, depending on where your corporate partnership resides. We have some corporate partners that are across all 4 chambers. And so that alone, just regional programming, is going to be very powerful and very impactful. But then we'll continue with statewide programming like we're doing today with the summit, and continual learning and networking opportunities as well. So if you are not a corporate partner, now is a great time to join, because there are sponsorship opportunities for the LGBTQ plus Workplace Alliance. It is at the program level. We've got it for the events level. There's regional opportunities with your market chambers, statewide. We've got it all. We want to get you engaged. We want to support you. And as Lisa said, this is a big milestone for us to be able to come to our corporate partners and say, we're here for you. We're here to support you with this amazing program. So with that, we have liftoff officially, making history, launching the LGBTQ plus Workplace Alliance program in the great state of Texas. And we have so much more work to do, as we all know. And we're going to do that through this programming as part of the 4 chambers. And we are excited to get you engaged as we move forward. With that, I am thrilled to turn this over to my colleague, Tina Cannon, who is, as she was introduced earlier, the CEO and president of the Austin LGBT Chamber. But Tina, if you don't know Tina is doing some amazing things in Austin, and we appreciate her collaboration and partnership. Tina.
I am these.
Okay. Looks like, Tina, do we have you? It looks like we're having a little technical. Can you hear us, Tina? Technology. We'll just ask everyone to be patient with us today as we're all continuing to work in a virtual environment. Can you hear us, Tina? Give us just a moment. Okay.
Sorry about that all. We're having some technical issues on internet in our office. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you now, Tina. We've got
Sorry
you.
about that.
Yeah,
Right as
you're
soon as
good.
I was about ready to come on. So with
Of
that, let
course.
me jump right into the meat and introduce our moderator. Actually, before I do that, stick around. There's a too long ago, and it's a really slick platform. So you'll get a chance to really engage. You can also engage during the session by posting questions into the chat box over there, and we'll grab them. You'll see that little Q&A bubble if you have a question for the panelists. But let's get started. We are privileged today to have the panels that we do. Lavone Jones, regent of Comcast Cable, one of the nation's largest video and high-speed internet and phone providers. She leads all facets of HR, employee engagement, environmental health and safety, and internal communications for the Houston region. Additionally, she serves as a key member of Comcast's West Division HR Center of Excellence. Jones held strategic leadership roles at Home Depot, as well as corporate office in waste management. She has a bachelor's of science degree in speech communication from Sam Houston State University and a master's of business admin, human resource management from Letourneau University. She is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the sorority for human resource management, and women in cable and telecommunications. She also serves as a board member and committee chair for the Houston Area Urban League. She lives, loves, and travels through this journey called life with her wife of 8 years, Chris, and their 5 children and 1 boxer. Please welcome Lavone Jones.
All right, thank you so much, Tina. And yeah, these technical challenges that's part of life in 2022 for sure. So I am thrilled and pleased to be the moderator for this dynamic group of leaders. So thank you to the chamber, thank you to the chamber across Texas for bringing us all together and letting us have this conversation that hopefully all the participants will be able to glean some really great nuggets, hopefully some best practices, and just have a little bit more in-depth and understanding of each respective panelist that we have today. So I'm going to start off by introducing Tim Chisholm. Tim, he's a vice president of exploration and production at Hess Corporation. He has over 30 years of experience in the oil and gas industry. He has been a longtime ally of the LGBTQ plus community. He has also done a lot of things, starting up and forming the first LGBTQ plus employee resource group. And so I'm sure we will glean a lot of insights from Tim and his journey in this space. Next up, we have Curt Morgan. Curt is the CEO of Vistra, and he has a dynamic background of over 30 years. We've got a lot of experience on this panel, a lot to glean from, and our panelists have seen a lot in terms of workplace and how we've evolved over the years. Curt has he has been in the energy industry for over 30 years and various roles throughout his tenure in that industry. So we want to welcome Curt to the panel. And then last but not least, we have Nicole Taylor. She's a director of community at Mursion, and she is a DE&I expert. She's a practitioner in this space, and she has started a lot of employee resource groups, not only at various companies that she's worked with over her 10-year span in this space. So if you could all just join me in virtually welcoming our panelists, and we're going to jump right into the fun conversation. Welcome. All right, so I am going to start off by, and I'm just going to kind of go around and I want to kick this off by just asking, how long have you been an executive sponsor for your company for the LGBTQ plus ERG group, and even any experience that you may have had, not only with your company, but maybe if you've done it at another company, you could add that as well. Nicole, I would like to start off with you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me today. So while right now I am helping build our ERGs at Mursion, and we are starting with our staff of color and our LGBTQ plus. So in that sense, I'm going to be more so their overall executive sponsor and making sure that they have that seat at a table, the right structure, and that we're really approaching the work as a business case. And previously at other organizations, I was really the one getting that foundation, making sure that executive sponsors knew their roles in an ERG, and then also that the ERG leaders knew what to expect from that relationship, how to own it, and just tracking everyone's progress together from that standpoint. I've been doing that for many years. I would say about 5+ years now, building ERGs.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure we're going to ask a little bit more of how that works later here in our panel. Curt, would you like to go next?
Sure. I had to get the mute button. First of all, nice meeting you, Lavone, and thank you for inviting me to be here today. Our ePride LGBTQ plus ERG started about a year ago, a little over a year ago. I've been an executive sponsor of that group since day one. We made a concerted effort in our company to increase and broaden the number of ERGs. I think mainly to build understanding, allyship, and inclusiveness across the company. After the George Floyd murder, we did, over almost 40 listening sessions. And the one thing that I realized as the CEO of the company is that it wasn't quite as I thought it was in terms of just the equality inside the company and how we managed our training and development and gave people, upward mobility. And so we made a concerted effort to increase the number of ERGs in our company. My path to get into this was pretty simple. I love all our ERGs. I wish I could basically sponsor all of them, but I don't have that much time. It was my observation that from an LGBTQ plus standpoint, that there were individuals that were still struggling inside our company and in that particular ERG. And I wanted them to know from the heart, from the very top of this company, that they had someone that had their back. And the only way I knew to do that was to step into that role and become a part of that group. And I'm proud of doing that. As CEOs, you can't sit on Mount Olympus and preside over a company. I'm a hands-on CEO, and people watch what I do. And if I don't show that I'm behind these groups, then people will not take them seriously. So it's very important that I get involved. And CEOs nowadays, just it comes with the job. You have to speak out on certain social issues. If it affects your company and affects your employees, then you have to speak out. And in some cases, employees have told me that it's the only place they feel like they can get sort of unbiased, objective information, because I don't have a political axe to grind. I'm not running for office and never will. So bottom line is that, I've been here through the whole thing. I love to be a part of that group, and I'm excited about being here today.
Excellent. Thank you, Curt. Lots of hearts and thumbs ups for your dedication and contribution and your why behind being the sponsor. And I'm going to circle back to, because I didn't get to that with Nicole, but Tim, I'm going to open the floor for you and tell us, how long have you been the sponsor? Then also you could give us your why you have the floor.
Sure. Thanks, Lavone, and really appreciate the chance to to be here and learn from our fellow panelists and others participating in this great event. We've at Hess, we've followed almost an identical path that Curt just described. Just got our ERG started last year, and I sit on the DEI council for all of our ERGs. And the reason I jumped forward immediately when this opportunity came up is I've been an ally since the mid '80s, and it started with, you know, two people I knew personally growing up in a small town in Colorado that took their own life, basically because of an ignorant community and being ostracized. And one of those was my best friend's little brother, and he took his life in high school. And I swore that I would take a journey to learn more and be somebody who eliminates unconscious bias. And so when this opportunity for an ERG in our company came up, it was something I had to take part in and play an active role in. So I'm looking forward to learning from others who are further along in this journey. And I know, when we got started, I knew people who were LGBTQ plus that I went out aggressively to go, recruit people, and you find out, it was hard enough coming out in my personal life. I don't want to do it again at work. And, when I heard that, it was like a gut punch to realize that, our culture isn't quite there yet. And we've got a ways to go. We've got some learning to do to bring everybody up to a common level and make everybody really bring their full self to work and feel like they belong. So that is my mission for sure over the next few years.
That's awesome, and great to hear that Hess and the other companies represented are dedicated to making everyone feel like they belong. So Nicole, what is your why?
Thank you. I always laugh at this question because honestly, I've been immersed in DEI my whole life. My mom was one of the first people doing this work at Dell back in the early 90s. And so I just thought it was normal to spend your weekends doing community outreach and Habitat for Humanity or, organizing the Special Olympics. And so it was ingrained in me for as long as I know and remember. And it just became a very natural fit as I entered the corporate space myself, finding ways to bring that into the workplace. Because as Tim said, wanting people to feel as they can bring their whole selves or as much as themselves as they choose to the workplace or any environment is extremely important. And seeing that employee resource groups was a really impactful way of doing that, giving people their own voices, amplifying those voices, letting them, dictate what resources they need and how they want to show up, and sort of creating that space and moving to the side as an ally has been really important to me. So I would say that's my why. It's my mom, and it's just what you should be doing at the end of the day.
Awesome. Great story. So we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to dig a little deeper. You all have me intrigued. I'm excited to learn more. So tell me exactly, what does it mean to be an executive sponsor inside your company? And then Tim, you kind of spoke to this, so I'm going to start off with you. How do you advocate for it internally and externally? I know I'm the executive sponsor for what we call it out at Comcast. And that's one of the things that we really are sitting with is how do we advocate? So I would love to garner some best practices from this team here. And I know we're all working through this and learning as we go. So Tim, I'll start off with you then, Curt and Nicole.
Yeah, I mean, we know that, having people feel like they belong and getting the most out of it is what drives value for a company. And the opposite is true. If people feel suppressed, we know we're not going to get the most out of everyone. So it's just extremely important for us. And our ERG is called Spirit, and I have a symbol above my nameplate, that says I'm the sponsor of this group. Please join. And we know we need a lot of allies as well as identified LGBTQ members to really get this thing moving with some kind of, I would say, anonymity and a larger population of security that people feel safe in and to participate in. So, I use internal and external social media. We have Workplace at work. So when we participate in events like with the chamber, we did a fundraiser for a food bank for elderly LGBTQ plus, and we merged with our Hess Force volunteer group to do that, and then published it as a very visible thing that people see that we've got executive support all the way up through the top management of the company, and we talk about it in town halls and leadership discussions so that people really see that it's visible. And as Curt says, it's part of our heart and soul, to be upstanding supporters of people who may be less represented across the company. So.
Got it. And Tim, I'm going to ask just a little bit of a follow-up question based off of something you said, and it triggered a thought around allies. And have you had much success getting allies to join? And if you haven't, if there's been any resistance, what has been the thing that's held them back? I know you spoke to those that truly belong to the LGBTQ plus ERG group, that they don't want to come out at work, but has there been any barriers that you all have seen when it comes to allies as well?
Yeah, I think we're new enough at this that people just aren't aware of how they can participate or why they should participate. And so that's still a learning in progress. And I think people look at it in the ally space, it's not obvious that they should be in the ERG. So, really just communicating the why for others to be supportive is really important. I talked to the ERG leader over at ExxonMobil, who, they've been doing this a lot longer than us. And, their journey was they started on a BCC list before there was such a thing as ERGs. And they slowly moved that population with a growing ally base from the BCC list on email, the blind copy list, onto the CC list, to having, complete events and public awareness of all of it. And it's now just part of the corporate, culture. And that's the journey we're on. And I'd say we're somewhere in between, people feeling comfortable participating, and others still wanting to kind of sit back in silence and watch and see if it is going to be a safe place to be. And but the allies, I'd say, is where we're starting to grow a membership faster right now, and I'm hoping that also makes it safer for all to participate fully. So.
Excellent. All right, Curt. So what does it mean to be, and you touched on it a little bit, to be an executive sponsor at your corporation, and how are you advocating?
Yeah, so I think I did allude to it earlier. First of all, I think at the highest level of the company, if you have an executive sponsor, it sends a signal to the other leaders in the company that if I'm going to put my time in on it, then then others should as well. And there's only one way really to get to know, people and have empathy and understand where they're coming from, and that is to spend time with them. And I think that's another way, is that if you're going to be a part of an ERG, you're going to hear a lot about the plight of your employees, and that's incredibly important for all of us to understand that. I mean, we're not just this big amorphous entity. We are an aggregation of individual people, and we need to recognize that. So I think that's number one. The other thing is that, I think by showing up and being at the ERG meetings, but also not just speaking out when it's, in our company Pride Month, but, consistently throughout the year, being on panels like this, which I've been on a number around this very issue, and being willing to step up and go to the town hall or the town square or get on a mountaintop and to express your views around the LGBTQ plus community is important. It's not, you can say all you want, inside the company, but if you're not willing to then live it, not only inside the company but outside, I don't think you have quite the credibility. And I think in order to do that, you have to internalize it and you have to be a part of it. I would say that for many years, I had a feeling inside me that drove me, that said, this is just, the way that people were treated was just not right. But I didn't say much about it. But I did tell myself, if I get in a position of leadership, I'm going to do something different about it. And so I'm trying to live that. I'm trying to live the words that I say. And so when people see me do it, then they know that's what our company is about. It's part of our DNA. And then it becomes, just a cultural thing for us. So, that's kind of how I'm trying to live it, Lavone, as best I can. I'm a work in progress like everybody else, but I'm learning and getting better. And, I'm proud that our ERG has grown to, I think now over 85 people. When I started, it was much less than that. And I remember the first couple of meetings, people were struggling. And there was comments about people were struggling about whether to join or not, because didn't know if they were in a safe place or not. And to see it grow to where it is today, I'm extremely proud, and I hope it continues. And from an allyship standpoint, we've also seen a significant growth in allies that have joined the ERG as well. So a lot of good activity going on, but we got a long way to go.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Nicole.
Thank you. So my role is going to be a little different. Seeing I'm not an executive yet, give me a year or two. But with my role as a director, the reason that I stepped into helping formalize the ERGs at my current organization is because I saw the members, grassroots, it usually starts that way, trying to navigate that space and not having anyone to turn to and guide. And given my background and things that I've done outside the organization, and DEI is not my current role at Mursion. I believe it's everyone's job, but it's not my current role. But I stepped in as someone to advocate for them and guide them at that level, knowing I had more access to our C-suite, able to help make some of these decisions, advocate for a budget, and really formalizing what it means to be an employee resource group and not just an affinity group or a casual meeting that happens every so often. So for me, it was really important, and I felt very grateful to be able to be where I'm at now, to start bridging that gap for others that, just a few years ago, as I was learning and doing the grassroots myself, would have loved anyone at any level higher than me to sort of reach back and start helping bridge that gap and making sure that, folks like Tim and Curt understand the value, that they get those connections. They have someone from the top really advocating for who they are and how we can start building a more inclusive workplace. And for me, that's where most advocacy comes from. And now if I take that and step outside of my current role and how I see executive sponsors, I always tell people it's a mutually beneficial relationship, or it should be. An executive sponsor should learn just as much as the ERG leaders are. Because as an executive sponsor, where you're sitting in the experience and expertise that you have, being able to give that to a group of people and being able, I saw someone in the comment, I think it was Lisa, saying, wow, to have the CEO as your executive sponsor. Exactly. Think about the impact that that's having on that group of people and how they can grow professionally. So they're not only just getting the personal aspect of, I feel like I belong at work, which is a basic, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's number 3, sense of belonging, like people need that. But you're also now getting a direct connection to someone that, has done a lot, has a lot of success, has a lot to teach you, and maybe even helping you understand, how can I get to these levels? I want to stay at this company because I feel like there are ways for me to grow within it. So you're looking at executive sponsorship, advocating, yes, but also how can you pour into that group of individuals who is pouring into your organization? They're giving you a lot of their labor and their emotions and their passions and helping you solve for problems. How do you invest back in them? So I always see that as a really great relationship that should be really thoughtful and taken seriously from both ends.
Hey, Lavone, if I can make a comment real quick to Nicole.
Absolutely.
I think you are going to become an executive in the next year or two. That was well said. And I really appreciate that perspective of how you see executive sponsors. And that's important feedback. So thank you for sharing that. I think it was a tremendous comment that you just made there, and I know I learned from it.
Thank you, Curt.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Curt. I mean, she did a fantastic job of embodying exactly what it takes and what's needed from all aspects of sponsorship when you think about ERG, and in particular this particular ERG, and just the nuances that go with having a robust LGBTQ plus ERG. So yeah, great comment. So I'm going to leave this one. This is open. Anybody can grab a hold of this one and answer. We all don't have to answer unless you all want to. I love it. Bring it on. This is feeding my cup here, and I'm sure it's doing the same for all the participants. But so, do you have any success stories? Any success stories from your LGBTQ plus ERG that you would like to share with the group?
Well, I'll jump in. I already said this. I mean, the growth of our group has been tremendous. So to me, that's a success story in and of itself. But more importantly, I've heard stories and people have told me that we've had a number of people who have not only come out inside the company, but then have come out with their families that were not prior to that because they've just felt safe inside the company, and then they felt safe to go to their families as well. And I view that as a success story. And we've also recently had a transgender employee join the group and open up about it, and recognizing, that the ERG and the company is a safe space for them. That's incredibly important to see people willing to open up and open up to our employees and our employees to see how allies and folks in the LGBTQ community have embraced each other has been heartwarming. I can't say it any different than that. And just seeing our company grow and working for everybody on an equal basis. That's a success story. We've done a lot of things in terms of how we handle screening, for job employment and skills-based, as well as education-based, and a number of things to try to create a level playing field inside our company. So like I said, so we can take this, this aggregation of individuals and bring out the best in everybody, as much as we can. So those are the success stories that I've seen.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in as well. We've just starting up the ERG is recognized by people in the ERG and outside of the ERG as, hey, that is really impressive. There are other ERGs are more obvious than this one as far as who would be in the ERG or not. It's not, there's nothing visible that says you are in this particular ERG, and we got a top score, 100% in the Human Rights Council Equality Index, which, that's an earned designation as one of the best places to work for the LGBTQ plus equality. So, that we're quite proud of. And we've got a real long track record of, I would say, HR policies that are very supportive of LGBTQ people and partners. So that, it's really been a core value of the company for, more than 50 years. So it's as far as, we're probably one in 5 oil and gas producers that really shine in this area. So it's something we're very proud of, and I want to grow our ERG to the size that Curt's talking about. So we're more in the 20s right now and working our way up. So but we'll get there.
And I'll chime in just very quickly. At my previous organization, and I had launched 7 ERGs at the same time. I don't do that, anyone. Just learning lesson, don't do that. But one of the success stories from the LGBTQ plus ERG, it had some of the strongest following. It was one of the easier ones to get off the ground, just given the organization I worked with. It was, in my opinion, I was like, oh, this will be great, and they're not going to need too much guidance. But one of the things that I learned and the feedback I got from the leaders as we did the process together was the sense of not feeling like they, and I think, Curt, you said this, that they were only tied to or only seen as a heritage month. And that's the feeling they had been feeling before. And really going through the formalization of an ERG and finding people's intersectionalities and encouraging ERGs to work together. That was a success story that I wasn't expecting. I got the feedback, like, it's so great feeling as though we're not just seen as this, monolith of, okay, Pride's here. What does the LGBTQ ERG want to do? But more so being included throughout the year and in different initiatives, your voice mattering at all times, and also understanding you can be Black and queer, you can be trans and queer and disabled. Like, what does your full identity look like, and how can you move through these spaces, and how can you use maybe your home base ERG to do that work? So that's something I wanted to call out because it was not expected, and it was a really lovely piece of feedback to get.
Well, that's a great tie-in, Nicole, and all of you, Tim, Curt, great success stories. Put a smile on my face, each and every one of you. So on the flip side of that, you always, with the sweet, you got to have a little bit of sour. So tell me about any challenges that you've all faced while being in the sponsorship role, or just even in the support. Nicole, you're at a different place of starting one up here. Just tell me about any challenges that you may currently, or that you're currently facing that you haven't touched on. I know we touched on some challenges.
I mean, I'll go just because I went first on the successes. I mean, for me personally, it's time, but I can make the time. The one good thing about being the CEO is that I get to choose what I put my time in on. So I'm willing to do that. But probably the most important thing, and this isn't just around the LGBTQ plus topic, this is true for me. I have frustrations, when things that we want to do, culture we're trying to build, get gummed up, at various levels of the organization. And it's hard for me to see that on a daily basis. I can't touch everybody all the time, and we're spread out all over the country, so it's very hard to do that. And so, I have to speak pretty definitively when I do speak about matters such as this, that this is our culture, this is who we are, this is how we're going to be, and we have a zero tolerance around it, because people need to know that I'm serious about this, that this is who we are, and that we're going to live it. And so that's a big deal for me, is making sure that the communication about who we are gets all the way through organization, and probably more importantly than anything, that the accountability and all the way to incentive compensation is tied to these matters. Because if you just can't talk it, you also have to walk it. And I think people have to know that you're serious about the type of company that you want to be, and that they see you by your actions, but also that we put the processes in place. I've always said that process drives culture, because over time, if you do something over and over again, because that's the way you do it at your company, that's the process, it becomes innate. It becomes part of who you are. So that's the thing, is just making sure that, you know, who we are and how we're going to live our lives inside our company is handed down all the way through the organization, and that people are held accountable to making sure that that happens.
Oh, that was great, Curt, because that struck an experience with me of seeing the industry go through cultural change when it comes to safety. And, the things that helped bring a safety culture really to the forefront was that zero tolerance, goal zero, nobody gets hurt. And I think that easily translates into, DEI, as far as nobody gets hurt, everyone belongs. And, I love the idea of using that concept of zero tolerance for accountability. That's really good. And I'm definitely going to bring that to our executive team, because it really rings true. And it's the way we change culture, certainly in the oil industry. So I think that'll be very helpful.
And I'll just say, it was funny. I'm glad you went first, Curt, because I was like, now I want to go work with Curt. Sounds amazing, because that's usually a challenge, is getting that true and genuine buy-in, from the executive level. And then I guess a logistical sort of challenge that I found in the space is not the time, it's the funding, it's the money. Like, how can I convince an executive team to put this as a line item, and to really make sure that this is a priority. And so, Curt, hearing you say that, that's music to my ears. So I'm like, that's the challenge. And so if you have the CEO already on board, that is going to alleviate a lot of the, when someone's building this or on the other side of this, those are usually the places in which they hit a roadblock. They have the ideas, they have the time, they have the passion, but that can only get you so far. And you're really going to need some investment and some resources. So it turns out we all just need to work for Curt. So that's what I'm going to do.
Well, I work for a pretty amazing, supportive company. So but yeah, we could work for Curt too, or come over to Comcast. I don't know. I'm recruiting. I'm in HR, always recruiting. All right. So no, this is just great feedback. Love everyone's passion around this. So my next question is, what advice would you share with employees? And this is probably Nicole's like sweet spot question right here. What advice would you share with employees who want to try starting a LGBTQ plus ERG just from the ground up? And what's beautiful about this, you all have recent experience. So please share away any of those gold nuggets just from the very beginning. Executive sponsorship, I heard that, but then what else?
I'll go. Any advice, do it. Just, the first one is do it. Make sure that you have a thought out plan. I always say it's a combination of the head and the heart. They're both important when doing this work. Find someone who can advocate and help you navigate what this looks like from the business level, helping you build a business case. Try to bring some data and some programming to the table. And then, of course, take care of yourself. Do not get burnt out. Do not take too much on. The work will get done gradually. You do not have to solve the world or change culture overnight. That is just not how the work is going to happen. And just make sure that as you're doing it, that you're really focused on embedding this into the organization, really institutionalizing it, as Curt was saying. That way, it's not just relying on individuals who have passion. Because oftentimes what I see in this space now is when those individuals leave, if this work wasn't actually truly embedded and taken on and tied deeper to just someone individually, when those people leave, I have unfortunately seen, ERGs stop being as active or the work not moving forward. So if you're building this, make sure that you're thinking deeper You're really looking at how to change the culture, and it can outlive you being there. And that is going to take executive buy-in. That is going to take processes and policies. It's going to take a little bit more of the things that aren't as glamorous as the good happy hours and the fun times. It is going to be learning a new skill set if you haven't quite honed in what that is. But it's a good skill set to have because it applies to so many other aspects of your corporate career if you choose to stay in that space.
That's great. And also, Nicole, there was something that was a takeaway that a nugget you gave us earlier is don't start 5 or 6 at the same time. Okay. She froze on me a little bit.
Yes, that's the biggest one. That's the biggest one. 1 or 2 at a time. 7 is
stagger it out a little bit, but just focus on this one and then move on. Yes. All right. To my other panelists.
Well, I'll just say that I think this is a very key part of, everybody wants to work for a company where you can learn, that you are respected, and that respect you, obviously. I think that you feel included, that you're a part of it, right? And you're motivated by that. I think this is one area where employees can look at their company, or if you're looking to go to a new company, and you can get a lot about who they are. And so I say go for it. Go to the senior leadership, say that you want to form an ERG, look how they handle that, whether they make funds available to do it, whether they commit to it or not. Because I do think it sends a signal about what the company is about. And I think in this day and age, portability, ability to move from companies to company, I think you need to look for companies that that will embrace you, that you have a safe spot to be who you are, and that you have the ability to be developed and upward mobility regardless of who you are. And so this is a key one for me. And if you're in an organization, I'd say go for it and see how the company reacts to it. And that'll tell you a lot about whether you want to be with that company or not. Companies send all kinds of signals through their actions, not so much their words. I've seen a lot of great policies sit on desks or on a credenza, but never really get enacted. I think it's the companies that actually, live by their words and put money behind it, but also commit time, are the companies that you should be looking at, and that value everybody equally and want you to reach your full potential at work and treat you like a family member. We say this at Vistra all the time. It's our work family, and we believe it. There's a war on talent out there. It's not easy to get the best people, and I think people want to work for companies that they're respected. They feel safe about being who they are, and that they can be proud of. And we try to do that every day. Like I said, we're a work in progress, and I know I am, but I think that's the kind of company we're trying to be. It's no longer good enough for corporations to say we care just about our shareholders. Stakeholder capitalism, which I think is the new word out there, is about employees. It's about customers. It's about communities, and it's also about investors. But you have to care about all those stakeholders, not just investors. And people inside the company are at the top of that list.
Yeah, and it's definitely a jump in with both feet, take action, get to know the community. I always find that I'm driven by the passion of knowing other people. Whether I participate in the MS 150 ride, I know lots of people with MS, and that drives my passion to raise more money. I have more energy to do that kind of event because of the people I've gotten to know in that community. And I think in this ERG is a way to, bring that community together, get to know more people, and more experiences, and the passion in it grows from your growing knowledge with getting to know people, and that drives the culture and the value that Curt's talking about, I think.
Absolutely. And Curt, there was something that you touched on that I want to ask about, because you talked a lot about culture and about the shift and the change in the culture and taking that strong stance. Along the way, I'm curious, have you been put at a crossroads where you had a talented individual in your company who was amazing, they brought results, productive, but then they just weren't on board with the culture shift? And have you been put in that position and had to make any changes, or and decide either maybe to part ways or to discipline in some way, whatever the case may be, or did the resistors get on board and eventually see the light? I'm curious, did you have any experiences such as that?
Well, yes. We're a microcosm of society. So, we got, a little under 6,000 people. So you can imagine we see a lot of things. And yes, I know I get feedback, and I know there are people, and look, we have power plants that are located in rural areas that, basically, have a homogenous set of people, and it don't have that ability to interact with others to really fully understand, the plight of others. And so, yeah, we have issues. I think the number one thing we try to do is to bring people together. I don't want to lose a good employee. I want to help a good employee become a better person. And being a good employee is not just about doing your job well. It's about being a good person. Day in and day out, and understanding others. You can't be a good manager of people if you can't understand, what your people are going through on a day-to-day basis. And so you have to listen, and you have to be open-minded, and you have to have a big heart. And I think at the end of the day, that's the kind of things we teach. So we have to put the training. We're investing in the training, DEI training, other things, so that we're bringing people together to build that bridge, to build that understanding, to build that allyship, and ultimately, hopefully, build better human beings. It doesn't always work. What I've found, though, is that most people who don't like it self-select out. And that's okay with me. They always know where the door is if they can't live the culture of the company. But I've also seen many people who basically have come around and been, big leaders around a multitude of different diversity issues, and have grown significantly, that may have been less prone to do so had the company not taken a leadership role, in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, yeah, I've seen it all. I think we've had some issues of some people where they have, they've said things to their fellow employees more than once, and we've had to disconnect from them. So all that stuff we've had to deal with, but we're not going to compromise who we are as a company because somebody's very good. You see that in sports, right? If you have a really good athlete, but the individual's cancerous in terms of the culture of the team, sometimes you have to make the hard choice. And in this instance, it's a pretty clear line for us that, we are who we are as a company. And if you can't be a part of that, then maybe you have to go somewhere else.
It's not a good fit. Awesome. So thank you, Curt. And we're about to close out and get to the Q&A section of our time together, but if you all have any final thoughts that you would like to share with the group before we open the floor for Q&A. No final thoughts in closing? All right, everything that has been said, that needed to be said, has been said. So now I'm going to open the floor for Q&A. Any questions?
Thank you so much for this and for this amazing panel. It was like a graduate course, all things ERG. So I really do appreciate the different levels, different perspectives. And you touched on a little bit of this, but there is a question in the chat, Lavone, for the panel. Really kind of a little bit of like Curt being kind of the pinnacle of trying to achieve that. A little bit more for maybe Nicole on, what kind of challenges have you had in keeping that momentum? Right. It's like Nicole mentioned, it's one thing, and then all of a sudden that ERG lead gets moved to a different division, different whatever. How do you keep that pressure and that drumbeat of equality throughout an organization?
Am I back? I think I
Yes.
froze just as the question was asked.
There you
Okay. Technology today. Yes. So the challenges of keeping momentum going. It's sort of twofold. There's multiple ways of doing this. Like I said, you need to make sure this isn't reliant on individuals and their passion, which means that when you're building this work, it is truly going to be part of like your people strategy. And where is this going to live within your organization? Is it going to be under HR? Is it going to be under a different department? Like, it needs to lie somewhere on your org chart. And then from there should be a plan. You shouldn't be planning Heritage Months a week before they happen. This should be like everything else that you're doing from a business standpoint. When you're planning a year in advance and you're getting budget for a year, all of this should be a plan. So that even if, unfortunately, an individual leaves or they get moved to a different department, the plan's already in place. And you can still make sure that you're hitting those milestones and giving people what they need. And there are going to be times where there's just burnout. That's just the nature of the world that we live in. So how are you taking care of the people doing this work? A lot of the time that momentum's slowing down is because they're just getting tired. So making sure that you as a leader are really thinking about how to make this sustainable. How are you investing back in them? Are they getting some different professional development opportunities, getting to go to conferences and filling their cup with this kind of content where they feel as though they're not having to do that solely by themselves and then bring it back. So short answer, make sure there's a wellness plan, that they're being taken care of as leaders, that there is an actual strategy behind the work being done and it's not one-offs. And then at the end of the day, it's just sometimes you're going to have to make sure you can step in as a leader and keep things going. Like Curt said, so if you have to speak directly about it matters, and being a little more authoritative about that, I think that'll really help with the momentum and things not burning out or fizzling or relying on one or two individuals within your organization.
Yeah. And I'll say too, it's like you fed into my next question, and maybe this is for Tim and for Curt, running the purse strings. Because all of you talked about, right, being intentional and putting your money in play as a corporation and supporting the ERGs and the different verticals that they serve. So one of the questions that popped in the chat are ERG leaders being compensated? And I'm assuming that's a direct. I know, Nicole, you talked about, right, filling the cup kind of to the tangential to just a monetary transaction. But what are you seeing in this space with ERG leaders being compensated for their time in running their particular vertical?
We actually seek out performance feedback for ERG active leaders and make sure it gets to their supervisor, because most ERG leaders, they're not DEI specialists. They've got a day job, and this is a passion that they've got that they also do, and we want to make sure that that's recognized as high quality, important, performance affecting our company, and it's recognized formally in their recognition for their performance, which goes right into bonus and pay and advancement. So it's seen as a very important role that actually directly links to performance.
And I know I'm not a panelist, but I am a URG leader as well. And, at Comcast, we also added as part of their career growth plan and an opportunity, especially even for some who aren't leaders or they aspire to leaders or they aspire to a bigger leadership role, to part of their career growth plan is to take a lead in the ERG. And I have seen many, many people launch into various roles, to senior director roles, even to executive roles, through with some of the work that they've done with the ERGs and the skills that they garnered through this process. Because as you all heard from our panelists today, it's a lot of work in addition to your day job. So the compensation does follow, and the career opportunities follow with being actively involved in an employee resource group.
Yeah, and Lavone, I'll just add real quick that we are moving toward direct compensation as well as being part of your performance appraisal process, and so I expect very soon that we will have direct compensation. We also have a DEI council, which has got about 15 to 20 people. And I expect that will probably be something that will be compensated as well. And they work with the ERGs and very closely. But it is a lot of work and to do it right. And I think it also sends a signal that the company recognizes that it's a lot of work, because it's one thing to say it, another thing to recognize it. And definitely think it should be part of the performance appraisal, but I also think there should be some direct compensation associated with it. And I know our company's heading in that direction.
No, that's great. And I'll toss a question in there just from me, because I hear this a lot from the employers in the Austin area, because most cities, especially Austin, is very much an employees market where employees get to kind of pick and choose where they spend their time. I think, jokingly, people were in the chat were saying, well, I'm going to go to work for Curt. I'm going to go to work for Lavone. So talk about how ERGs is a recruitment tool, and then we'll kind of wind that down as our last question. But what are you seeing as the return on investment, if you will, as it pertains to recruitment with a solid ERG?
Well, I think it's as much retention too as it is recruitment, which I think is a big issue, right? Because if you get people that are experienced, you don't want them to go somewhere else. So I think it's also part of retention. But I also know the word gets out, and people want to know when they're looking for companies. As I said before, you want to pick a company that you feel like you can go in and learn and you could be proud of. And I think folks are really interested in ERGs. They want to know. There's also, we're a company that gives back to community in a significant way. Our employees give their time all the time. That type of culture gets out and it spreads. And I think that's important. For us. Plus, when we recruit people, we talk about it. We talk about what our culture is about. And that we have ERGs, the giving nature of the company and the employees, and I think that resonates. The new workforce that's coming up, I think, are demanding these types of actions. They want to see their companies do more than just produce a product, and I think I think we do that, and I'm sure there's others that do the same. But I think you have to in order to compete for the best talent.
Oh, great. And I'll jump in here. When I coach, because I have a DEI practice on my own, and when I coach individuals, that's a question I have them ask organizations when they're interviewing. Do you have employee resource groups? What is your DEI strategy? These are things that, as Curt is saying, they're no longer nice to have. They need to be there. They need to be there. And it is the market where you can choose where you work for. And so from that standpoint, but also from recruiting, one of the ways in which I've utilized the employee resource groups is actually bringing them in and asking them to tie into their networks. Who do you know? How can you help us get candidates from your demographic? Are we not looking in the right places to be recruiting? So that's an actual very direct way to use an employee resource group to diversify your pipeline and bring people in. And, you know, statistics shows that an employee who comes in with a referral, I think it's like 35% more likely to stay. They already have a personal tie to the organization. So it's going to tenfold that retention that Curt was speaking about as well. So having them in place, having them be able to speak about the company, give you direct context, and then also it's going to help your brand reputation of being someone who cares and already have the work there are going to be ways that I see that working.
Yeah, there's no doubt it affects retention. And we've actually gone through, I would say, an overhaul of our recruiting process so that, you know, we make sure that we have a diverse panel that is actively involved in the recruiting process. We have a technical portion and we have a behavioral portion of the hiring process that really brings out a conversation about DEI and culture. And, you know, because as Curt said, you know, it's more than just being good at your job. You know, you have to care about people, and you know, that kind of leadership we're looking for just as much as their technical abilities. So, you know, it's nowadays it's more than just doing your job well. It's working with people very effectively and creating the right cultural environment of inclusion. So.
Thank you for that. Lavone, you have done a fantastic job moderating. Give us kind of your last words of wisdom. What can people take away? What is your parting thoughts?
Thank you so much, Tina. Well, my parting thoughts is this panel did not disappoint. You all have been amazing. You've brought some great insights. I'm definitely going to take some things back and put them into action when it comes to my ERG that I'm the executive sponsor for. I hope others that are on the call. It looks like I'm seeing a lot of hearts and thumbs up. Everyone feels the same way. So thank you again to my partners. You all made this job easy. Thank you for all of you that are on for listening, and thank you to the chamber across the state of Texas for having us and asking me to moderate such a great event. Back to you, Tina.
Certainly. Thank you for that. Again, I'll echo those same words. Great panel, fantastic insight. And then thank you for everybody who commented in the chat or dropped in a question. Again, if you have not reached out to these folks already individually, their contact information and their names are on the screens. But thank you so much. And that is a perfect title about leading from the front. We could not have done what we do without you guys. As you all heard, it's a heavy lift, right? It's a super heavy lift, but you're not alone. You can reach out to professionals in the field who have done this before. You can also, of course, reach out to your local LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Each of our chambers have programming and support and professionals ready to help you stand up or better your ERG in your area. So be sure to check that out with your local chamber of what's going on. So like I mentioned at the beginning, this software is pretty slick. So it allows us to do a whole heck of a lot. We will take a short little breather, do a little bio break, etc., and then come back for our next panel, which has my good pal Casey Meadows on there. I'm excited to hear Casey. But I'll let that panel take over in just a few minutes. So look to take a little breather and then come back for this panel at what, 10:30, I believe. I think. Let me double check. I'm sure Lisa will tell me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I do believe so. So take a little breather and then come on back and then hang out with us during the day, because you'll also get to go and visit with each other in the networking cafe, which is, again, the software is kind of cool. I feel like I'm doing an ad for them, but it does really allow a much more intentional and almost in-person type of engagement. So we'll be right back in a little bit. Thanks all.